What is the most disturbing thing you've heard someone say casually? We were standing around chatting while I finished decorating a cake. Maybe 6 of us. Me, Megan from Salad Bar, Mike from the main line, and a few random people. Some alarm had gone off, and we were temporarily locked in. Megan walked away to get a drink. One of the remaining group says, "What's the first thing you'd do if we were trapped here forever?" And Mike says, "I'd grape Megan, without skipping a beat." Then he just chuckled. I was repulsed and said so, but the men there all just laughed and blew it off. Shrugged their shoulders like, "What? Talk about the creeps." I told them all to go back to work. That tells me he's thought about it. More than once. Once broke up with a man in the middle of the night and dad warned me to hide my pistol till he could get to me next day. Ex decided to help me pack, asked where my gun was, I got a weird sick feeling and just said, "Packed." He told me months later he planned to grab it from me, lock himself in the bathroom, and eat a bullet. Just casually, during a conversation I thought was normal and civil. Good on your dad. Glad you're safe. I had a girl confess to me to having sex with his father. We were friends for a while and she just casually dropped how she seduced him while blowing/fucking him while he slept. Also giggles and bashful, "I know it's wrong, but I liked it so it's okay," as if he was in the wrong. She was 28 and he is mid-40s, for what it matters. He wasn't in her life, she was raised by a stepfather, and her mother had moved away from the dad, and they had just recently reconnected. That friendship didn't last. Was getting a tattoo one time from an artist who happened to be a regular at the coffee stand I previously worked at. While he was in my ear with the gun he started casually talking about how his ex-wife upset him one time so him and a buddy took her out to the woods and had their way with her. I was absolutely petrified. Thankfully my best friend was with me and the tattoos were super quick. Never went back or spoke to him again. It's crazy how tattoo artists will drop the most insane lore on you mid-tattoo when you have no other option but to sit there and pretend to be okay with the conversation. It's almost like it's on purpose. I once made a comment about being the oldest child in my family. My dad was drunk and responded with, "Maybe." Then proceeded to tell me that I probably have an older sister in Korea. When he was stationed there, he had a girlfriend who told him she was pregnant right before he got new orders. He wasn't ready for kids, and one of his buddies was into her, so he thinks that guy probably raised her. Adding, "Wow, this really blew up." I honestly didn't realize how many people had similar stories. I always thought it was interesting that he specifically said her, which makes me feel pretty confident it's true. I've also taken a DNA test in case she ever wants to find me. Thanks for all the awards and for sharing your stories. Oh my god, I have an almost identical story. My dad wanted to stay with her, but his family threatened to disown him. I found an old picture of her and him in our basement when I was like 12 and asked and my mom had a fit. She supposedly had an abortion, but nobody knows. My dad has long passed, he died in the 80s, so I will never get the whole story but holy crap. Got into a fight with a classmate from grad school, then a tenure track professor, who was arguing that he sleeps with his college students for their own good because they need to learn that's how the world works. He shared how he identified which young students are good candidates and will be grateful and won't tell on him. He looks for pretty girls with crooked or bad teeth. He said that having crooked teeth is usually a sign that either her parents can't afford to take care of fixing her teeth, or they don't care enough about her to do it, or everyone involved is simply too ignorant to know lack of orthodontics or a tell of being lower class and don't even think to fix it. So the girl is less likely to know what kind of help might be available in the world, and her parents are unlikely to know or have the resources to pursue any kind of legal action if a conflict were to arise. He also clarified that slightly crooked teeth aren't a guarantee the above is true, but really bad teeth are. It's a quick way to drastically narrow down options and start probing more deeply for who would be a successful target. He was talking about this like it's a known thing among people of his class, old money Ivy League kind of guy. As someone who attended an Ivy with him, I have never heard anyone else speak like this, but have always been haunted wondering if predatory men really do whisper about this kind of thing among themselves. Or if he gets this stuff from online cesspools where guys like this congregate. My old boss casually mentioned stopping her birth control and taking fertility medication. She told me not to tell her husband because he'll never be ready for a baby. The correct response is, "You know that's grape, right? Then find a way to tell her husband." Yeah, unfortunately it put me in a bad position as I didn't really know her husband and I am a single mom who was really relying on that job. She did end up pregnant and the child is 2 now. I still feel morally conflicted about not having said anything, but she revealed she was pregnant not very long after she told me. I assume that he at least suspects she did because she is a very dishonest person in her business practices and friendships, and this is not exactly shocking behavior if you know her. When I was in high school, someone told me they had microwaved a cat, but I choose to believe this was just for shock value. I genuinely have a friend who microwaved their hamster to dry it after a bath as a kid. From what I understand, it did not go as expected. Our mother, when she proudly showed off to her friends about how she beats us physically. She was snickering and she didn't realize her friends were looking at her weirdly. Anyway, they're not friends anymore. She's friends with some crackheads instead. Reminds me of my mother, a teacher, telling another teacher I was in the class of that it was okay to hit me. Our mothers are really fucked up, huh? I ran away too late. Ran away isn't even what it's called, I can't be sure. I was hella grown, but I was supposed to stay home forever so I could serve my younger brothers, according to her. In a hospital waiting room I got talking to a guy who had been in prison but had been released 2 years before and had turned his life around because Jesus, I think it was the stroke that the burst aneurysm had caused in his frontal lobe. He went on to tell me about a guy he had met in prison who was in for life. The guy had robbed a store and barricaded the elderly clerk in the walk-in freezer, where she froze to death. He ended the story with something like, "Poor guy, can you believe got life for that?" He couldn't have known she was going to freeze to death. Coworker casually telling of the time he and his friends took some girls out in a boat to the middle of the lake, stopped the boat and told the girls suck or swim. The more I think about that, the more disgusting it is. He was almost bragging. Older guy at my job told one of the younger female employees that he liked when she wore pigtails because they make good handlebars. She later told me that he had also told her he would give her a ride on his motorcycle but she's have to go topless. Been reported a dozen times and everyone always gets the, "That's just how he is" response. My dad told me this as a small child. Still can't wear pigtails. While they were very drunk, briefly mentioned that they'd killed someone years ago. Asked them about it a couple of days later. They freaked the fuck out, asked where or who I heard that, and warned me never to speak of that again. Oh man, I've had almost that exact same situation. My boyfriend at the time's very drunk brother told me how his old dealer was going to kill him for not paying up, or at the very least not sell him the best heroin in Baltimore anymore, so he got him first. I was 16 at the time. Asked him the guy's real name the next morning, because all he told us was some dealer/street name, and he acted like I was crazy and he didn't know what I was talking about. I was an apprentice and the only woman on a construction job running 2 12-hour shifts and I was on overnights. One night we came into the shack for break and the power was out. One of the journeymen said something about passing me around. The other men seemed uncomfortable but of course did not say anything to defend me, and so I said, "In your dreams motherfucker," and everyone laughed but I was secretly really disturbed and still am 14 years later. When I was an apprentice it was less common for women to be on job sites. I think of this incident every time a woman is reported murdered on their job site. Outie Hicks, Amber check. I love men and am in a happy, healthy marriage with a man I've been with for well over 20 years, but that said, men scare the shit out of me. Fuck, had a cop tell me, a preteen, about how they purposely put a loudmouth kid into a cell with a very violent inmate. The inmate told the kid to suck his dick, kid said, "I'll bite your dick off," so the inmate smashed his face into the wall until he had no teeth. Fuck me, same cop laughed about how many times he had to shoot someone's dog. I had forgotten about both of these. Well, I have some 25-year-old trauma to unpack. My brother-in-law, when he was in the army, he was on the phone with his friend, and said, "If we don't have a war soon, I ain't never gonna get to kill nobody." I was in the infantry. You'd be surprised, or maybe not, at how many dudes in the combat arms want to kill someone. I'd say it's a majority. A friend of mine, let's call him Aaron, was in the SAS and had seen duty in Iraq and Afghanistan, and probably a few other places he's not allowed to mention. We and a few others were at a bar and a group of young guys overheard him talking about some friends from his platoon. They got real interested in him and what he'd done in the military, and kept asking questions he really didn't want to answer. How many dudes did you kill? Did you ever get to drone strike someone? Did you get to interrogate anyone? Aaron has talked about his service, but it's clear to us all that he's not only not allowed to talk about some stuff, but also that he doesn't want to, and we all respect that. War isn't pretty. Finally, one of them asked, "What's the most fucked up thing you saw?" He looks at the guy and tells him deadpan, "I watched a kid cry in his mom's arms after I shot him, then I shot her when she picked the grenade he'd had. The kid was still alive to see it before he bled out." The group went completely silent after that and just slowly left after not knowing what to say to that. I asked him if that was actually true, and all he told me was, "Don't ever join the fucking military." I didn't press him on that. I used to work as a carpenter, and our small crew got subbed out to a bigger crew of workers on this commercial site. I'm up on some scaffold working on a concrete form, and there's laborers below me. One of the old guys is talking about how hot his adult daughter is and he would totally bang her if he was able to. The guy he's talking to is agreeing with how hot she is, and they're laughing. Very casual conversation. "Your mom makes me glad that mine is dead." His mom was a massive alcoholic. He was glad she died before his opinion of her could potentially change. He absolutely loved his mom, so that was pretty heavy. "I'm gonna pick you up, but before we get to mom's I gotta sell a bike too, my SAR." My brother said this. He knew the whole story. He knows what that guy did to me. "My SAR has been mowing my lawn," he told me he's sorry. My mom casually telling me this like it's okay that she's also still in contact with him. I work in child welfare. I have heard many things, but one that disturbed me was regarding one of the dads on my caseload. I knew he was convicted of raping a 14-year-old babysitter. He got a plea deal and only did a few years in prison. His wife at the time divorced him, but I remember talking to her about his erratic and scary behavior. When I asked her about details surrounding the rape of their babysitter, she calmly said, she knew what she was doing. She always wore short shorts around him. Gross. Asked my dad to stop grabbing my ass when I walked by. I was 13, and he told me I was his property. He could do whatever he wanted, and I should be glad he didn't do anything worse. My dad used to do this too, along with slapping and other things. He never said property, he always emphasized the word daughter before saying he could do whatever he wanted. "I'm sorry you went through this. I hope you got away." I did. My dad did too. I ran away from home at 16 and cut contact. Years later, when I was 29, he showed up at my grandmother's house unannounced. I was leaning against the breakfast bar. The minute he saw me, he walked straight up and slapped me hard on the backside and told me that I still had a peach. "I'm glad you got away and I hope you've healed." Chatting on the subway with a new coworker I'd met like 3 days before, and she tells me about the time at Cornell she and her friends saw someone jump into the river and not emerge, drowned, and them trying to find someone to tell and nobody around caring. Edit, it wasn't a suicide, which I implied. It was weirder. She described it as a hot day, and they were at a spot with a swimming hole, with a bunch of people around having fun. Huge crowd. People were jumping in the water, and she saw someone across the way jump in, but then noticed that they didn't see him come up. I think it was after a while, like, wait a minute, did that guy ever come up again? I can't remember exactly what the circumstances were. But I remember her describing being kinda drunk, on this beautiful sunny day, with everyone around her having a blast and music playing, and they're trying to get anyone to pay attention to the kid they think just died. And it turned out someone had drowned. It sounded like a nightmare, and she's telling me all of this in a normal cadence, and I'm nodding and listening, and trying to be empathetic. I think she probably needed to talk about it, then thought it was normal small talk, but still inside I'm like, what the fuck? Until right now we have only discussed the weather. By a female cop. We had a foul-mouthed kid in a holding cell last week. He kept running his mouth about how he could kick all of our asses if he wanted to. Finally, we had enough. A group of us went in and beat him senseless until he was crying like a baby. Important to note, this was a holding cell, not prison. He hadn't been convicted of anything. The beating they gave him was out of pure ego. He was confined to a cell and posed no threat to them. Lastly, she wasn't anyone I knew. I didn't even know her name or what police department she worked for. She apparently just thought it was okay to beat up a teenager for saying stupid and offensive things. If they bleed, they're ready. Overheard this disgusting, toothless, fat plumber at a community barbecue in rural Australia. Shared the info with a couple of the organizers, who were not surprised. The grub has form, and promptly left the event. My ex leaving me a voice note blaming his impending suicide entirely on me. and saying that he specifically chose to do it in our bed and on Christmas Day so it would ruin my birthday for the rest of my fucking life. It's been a decade, and seeing as how I now dread both the entire festive season and my birthday. Mission accomplished. Live in the South. Went on a historical ghost tour this past Halloween night and of course ended up going through a section of the cemetery that included graves of past slaves. In learning about some of them, we were told one older female slave continued to live and work in the house where she was enslaved even after slavery was abolished. Immediate thought being that she had no choice, being an older woman with nothing to her name. Apparently, the lady next to me had thoughts completely on the other end of the spectrum, as she stated aloud. That's because slave owners actually loved and respected their slaves and treated them like family. Needless to say, me and another woman about broke our necks whipping them around to tell her off. Yet another harsh reminder of the bullshit being spewed in everyday life now. I told my granddad that I wanted to bring my Japanese girlfriend to come see him, and he told me he didn't want to see her. Without thinking, I asked how come, and he told me a really graphic story about being a prisoner of war in a Japanese internment camp and seeing one of his friends getting picked out at random and beaten to death by guards for fun or stress relief. He says he struggles to look at Asian faces since without being filled with rage, and he's worried he would end up saying something he regrets. He'd never said anything to me about his war experiences before, and I had no idea how to respond to that. So I just gave him a hug, changed the topic, and later told the girlfriend that it wasn't a good idea. Damn though. Abusive ex-girlfriend calmly explained her plan to kill me if I left. She had a knife up to my throat and told me she would do the same thing but actually go through with it and let me bleed out. Thankfully out and still alive. Oh my fucking god, my ex several times would be buzzed/drunk sitting at the kitchen table with me and casually mention how if he hit me it would disfigure me. I acted calm and didn't say anything, so when the time, not long after, came and he did start hitting me, I called the police and left. Me and my daughter never went back even when he almost begged me to. It took all I had not to, because I was broke and had only my parents' tiny living room floor to sleep at. I later learned the police had come and beat him up pretty bad after I called. I just dialed 911, set phone down and let them hear what was happening, then I left. Serves him right, and I'm glad they kicked his ass. He left welts on my head and shoulders. This was 22 years ago and he's dead now, hopefully burning in a lake of fire.